phrase, I think we're not in Kansas anymore, when faced with an unusual situation. Madam Area Director, Madam Division Director, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, this is no accident. The movie, The Wizard of Oz, and the story, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, are arguably some of the most culturally influential stories of our time. They've withstood the test of time. They even earned a spot, one of the very first 25 spots on the National Film Board's list of movies. In 1989, out of 1,000 movies that were selected, only 25 actually earned this very honored spot to begin with. So, to start, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, written by L. Frank Baum, in the year 1900. I'm going to focus a little bit more on the movie today, which was based off of this story, as that is, I think, the story most of us are more familiar with. The movie was released in 1939, filmed in Culver City, California, at the MGM Grand Studios, directed by Victor Fleming, and starred, of course, we all know Judy Garland, somewhere over the rainbow. And we've got our Scarecrow, our Tin Man, our Cowardly Lion, a little less known, but still very, very well known in all of our minds. This was a really influential movie at the time. It was one of the very first movies to use this process of Technicolor, which is when she walks out of that barn and you see just everything in color. You see Munchkin Land, you see the yellow brick road. It's amazing how it changes the entire atmosphere of the movie from this bland Kansas to Munchkin Land, this whole new world of possibilities. So to give you a little background, in case you haven't seen the movie or read the book, Dorothy is a farm girl from Kansas. She lives a very boring life with her aunt and uncle, decides to run away, gets knocked out by a tornado, and wakes up in Munchkin Land, this colorful place. Now she has to find her way home. She wants to go back to Kansas, which, my family's from Kansas. I don't know why anybody would want to go back to Kansas, but that's a different speech. So she goes down this yellow brick road, and she meets her mortal enemy, the Wicked Witch of the West. I'll get you, Dorothy, and your little dog too, right? Well, she finds friends along the way to help her fight this Wicked Witch of the West. She's got her trusty dog Toto, who really doesn't serve much of a purpose in the movie other than to get her in trouble. She's got the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, who doesn't have a brain, and of course the Cowardly Lion. In the end, they make it to the wonderful land of Oz, meet the wizard, and she gets to go home and be with her family back in Kansas. Now, how is this culturally significant? We've all seen this movie. All of us are different ages, we're from different backgrounds, but we've seen it, we've heard of it. It's still here almost 100 years later. How did that happen? Well, to begin, it's got a very familiar setting, right? It's based in America at the time, in farm country where a lot of people were from. It's got your farmers, it's got your Tin Man, it's got people who are very familiar to you. It really aligned with the feminist movement of the time that it was released. Your main character wasn't a hero. No, your main character was a hero, I'm sorry. Your main character wasn't a male, it was Dorothy, a female, and she was the one who controlled her own fate all along. And it also incorporated the very optimistic Western values of the time. This was something that wasn't typically done in a lot of stories. In fact, L. Frank Baum himself put in the beginning of his book, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz was written solely to pleasure children today. It aspires to being a modernized fairy tale in which the wonderment and joy are retained and the heartaches and nightmares are left out. Meaning that at the end of the story, there was good, there was happiness, she was back home with her family, and she wasn't dead, or something like that. Like all of those grim Reaper fairy tales and all those types of things. So, really, you've got this happy story, and really one of the interesting things that I found was that your story goes from your roots, right? It starts in your roots, so that was really important. And it goes then to the aspect of, okay, you've got this power within yourself to get yourself to where you want to go. And then it goes back to your roots, back to Kansas. And overall, these things really related to people at the time because they didn't have a lot of power. And it relates to people now today as well, because we sometimes feel powerless. But the main message of the movie is that you've got this power within yourself to take yourself from being not so happy and maybe unappreciative of what you have, like Dorothy was at the beginning. And you go on this journey, but you find that you have the power within yourself all along to get to where you want to be. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, I definitely recommend that you go home and watch it, because you will be cackling all night long. But if you have seen the movie, you know that you can get joy from this movie as a young child, whether you're looking at it from the story aspect or as an adult, looking at it from the aspect of the different things that you can gain from watching this movie and remembering that you have the power within yourself, because there is no place like home. Thank you.